Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Insider, brought to you, as ever, by Vanishing Inc. Now, for the people watching the video version of this, you can see I'm wearing my summer shirt. That's because we have declared summer officially open at Vanishing Inc. And that means it's our second sale of the year. Our summer sale is now on. We've done something we've never done before. 25% off every single, almost, Vanishing Inc. product. That's your downloads, your books, your tricks. 25% off. We know you like your download bundles, so we have got Carlisle, Paul Wilson, Andrew Frost, and Ernesto Malero download bundles, all at 50% off, and you get double VI points for the first 48 hours, and after that, there's going to be 2 selected products a day where you're going to get double VI points. That's all the things you know about the sale. Go there now and buy things. All right, that's the subtle advert over. My guest today was a finalist on AGT. He's appeared on Fool Us, on MTV, on VH1, on Comedy Central, on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, and was a consulting producer on the astonishingly good Carbonaro Effect. It's Derek Hughes. Derek, how are you this morning?
Good. Cheers. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy summer.
Happy summer indeed. What's your magic origin story? You have got 19 seconds.
Magic kit when I was 10. Open heart surgery that same year. I know a lot of us, a lot of young people get a magic kit and they lose interest because magic's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
I had some downtime to keep my focus. Penny to dime taught me that alchemy might be real. So I printed business cards, stealing Tenyo's Rabbit logo. When I was 12, started hustling shows.
At
Saw
12?
what I could. Yeah. Mostly freebies. I realized the best commodity at that age, the most important income at that age was experience. So I offered myself to the nursing home circuit.
Right.
And, a lot of half-sleeping audiences, but I got my stage time.
Sure.
And then performing arts, a year of performing arts high school to help my magic get better, inspired me to explore some acting as well. And it's been a patchwork quilt from there. And here we are.
Perfect. You mentioned the acting in one of the interviews I looked at before speaking to you. Though you said that magic is acting, and your degree was theatre. How important do you think it is for magicians to have at least some kind of training or experience of acting and theatre?
I think it's immensely important. And here's, the actor's tool, the skill of the actor is to recreate a sense of truth again and again and again. Mm-hmm. Either a play, which runs for years or weeks, and on a film for many takes from different angles to get the coverage to recreate this moment of discovery. And that's what we're doing in our performances. We're doing the same tricks again and again and again. So the acting tool helps us imbue those performances of magic with a sensation of discovery and a sensation of truth, which is going to make it more powerful, interesting, and revelatory for every audience we experience. Quick story about performing. I did 9 years of restaurant magic when I was in high school and early in college. And one night, I would do 2-hour shifts, and one night there was these teenagers, 13-year-old kids sitting alone at a table separate from their parents. I'm out the door, but I'm like, you know what? I'm in the zone. I'm killing it tonight. I'm gonna just throw in one more. I know I'm off the clock, but I'm feeling good. And they look like a target audience, a prime audience to pump my ego.
Mm-hmm.
So I go and I do a routine. I start into a routine, one of my good ones, and the one kid stops me and he's like, are these words memorized? And I had to take a breath and I was like, yeah, yes, they are. And so the acting what this taught me was it's not just the script. Scripting is so important, but that's not theatrical. Theatrical is then discovering the script. Mm-hmm. So we're not into a patterned, rote, memorized, paint by numbers experience for our audiences, and I can still fall into that trap. But that's where, again, the tools of the actor come in very, very handy. Both as a constant practice, it's not something that okay, I'm going to apply the actor's tool to this routine now, and create. You do decide moments where there's going to be a bit of discovery, or that you want to play dumb, so there's a surprise.
Sure.
You do make those decisions, but it's sort of constantly being on point with breath, and it's just take acting classes. I'm in a class. Here's my script that I received yesterday for my acting class, which is tonight. I'm always in class, studying, practicing, and getting that stage time in that skill set. Both because I love it, but also because I know it helps my Zoom show, my live show.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. This has never happened before was something my drama teacher at college that's what you'd say every single time before you go on. And it's so true with patter for tricks that you get into this. Oh, and that's when I do this line. And people know, but the teenagers were ballsy enough to call you out on it. Normal adults won't.
Thank the heavens.
Yeah.
Because I'll never forget that moment.
Yeah.
And you're right. People are polite, and they're like, "Oh, this is a nice amateur performance. I'll sit through it, and be fooled by the puzzle, and I won't think this person is special, and I won't be moved.
Sure.
I won't be moved.
Yeah. You moved to LA. Correct me if I'm wrong. Initially, to pursue your career in acting. Is that right?
That's true.
Yeah. So when did the call of magic take over from acting?
Sure. So I did have this part of my journey was I had originally moved to New York City, and then I had representation that I kind of flowing like water, yes-anding opportunity as it sort of opens up. And I had a manager from L.A. that was interested in sending me on auditions for acting, but really couldn't do much for me in New York. She set me up with a meeting with a commercial agent in New York, and I was working commercially,
right?
Out of New York City, but she didn't have the access or the Rolodex to get me in with anyone who could get me like TV and film auditions, and that
Sure.
at the time was the real goal. But she could in LA, so I flew out. I sublet my New York spot and flew out to LA for one pilot season, which is sort of a heavy audition season, and had some really good luck, good response, great feedback from producers, and some nibbles, and I saw the light,
Yeah.
the sunny LA light, and another part of it was going back to New York and having a brisk burst of winter air freeze my sinus cavities and go, you know what, LA sounds pretty good. So the first decade in LA, really, I wasn't performing magic. Magic kind of took a beloved spot on a back burner, and I was going on multiple. I mean, any job worth doing is, I think, a full-time job. It's not like you can have, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Hyphen is kind of an illusion. Really, if we're gonna crush it, it feels like one thing. And acting was my thing at that time, and so it filled my days with auditions, classes, and jobs, and it was wonderful. But I was doing a lot of on-camera stuff. But unless it's a sitcom, on camera doesn't give you this, right? And I was really missing feeling my talent with a crowd.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I can do. I obligated myself to get up in front of live audiences at least 3 nights a week in LA. So that's comedy open mic nights. That's when I started exploring stand up. Because I was doing a lot of stand up venues and sort of folding straight stand up into the performance of some of the magic that I was doing. And so that was great. And I was feeling my talent,
right.
And I started performing more at the Castle. And when you do something, ripples go out. And so opportunities were coming my way to perform live. And so 2 things happened around the same time. I met my now wife, and we started building our life together. And I met, at that time, a really great agent for colleges, which are all over the country.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got really busy doing
College
live
shows.
personal appearance dates at colleges. And then Charlene and I had a baby. And so then money was no longer a luxury. Money was a necessity. You know, as an artist, money's a luxury. You know, like I mean, if I starve,
as a daddy,
so what?
Yeah.
But when you do take on the responsibility of a parent, it's no longer, you know, so what? You do have to kind of consider some sense of stability. So a bird in the hand. I took every live opportunity that came my way because that was sure money, and auditions are not sure money. And so then once you're away from auditions, you know, if again, you're whatever you are, you're full time.
Right.
And as a full time actor, part of your job is to be available at a moment's notice to go do an audition. And in the acting world, it's not just one audition, you get the job. There's a sequence. And when you go to that first audition, they know when the callback is, and they know when the second callback is, and they know the shoot dates. So they send you all that information at the first audition. And if you're not available for any of that, they don't want you to go on the first audition.
Yeah.
Because they don't want the producer to go, we love them. They're amazing. Oh, now they're a pain in my ass?
Right.
Right? So they'd send me an audition. I'd look at the dates and go, oh, I'm gone on the callback, or I'm gone for one of the shoot dates, or, you know, because my calendar was double-edged sword of blessings. It was busy. And so I slowly started kind of moving into live performance as a full-time thing. And then when really virtually 100% of my income was live events outside LA, we're like, well, let's go buy a house in Minnesota. They have an airport. I talked to David Williamson. I called David and I was like, hey man, you live in the Midwest. What do you think? He was great, very supportive and encouraging. He's like, without a doubt, the quality of life. And he wasn't wrong. And from our personal experience, it was one of the best choices made in quite a while.
And to raise a family as well.
Unbelievable, you know. And now on lockdown, I can't imagine being we had a very nice 2-bedroom apartment in Playa del Rey, right next to LAX. It was great, very nice. But it was a 2-bedroom apartment. And I can't imagine, you know, the Big Brother style experiment that would have happened to my family if we were locked in a 2-bedroom. And blessings to everyone that went through COVID and is going through quarantine to this day in a 2-bedroom apartment or smaller.
Absolutely.
God love you.
Yeah.
But we have a nice house with a yard.
Sure.
And it was pretty good.
Back to scripting. Your set at least appears to be quite tightly scripted. You seem to know where every beat is and hit it. But I read one review that said, and I quote, was as if audience members were having a conversation with you. So how do you have a tight script but yet make the audience feel that it's freer than it is?
Sure. Well, you know, some of this is sort of, you know, there's elements of mindfulness, right, that fold into any artistic pursuit, any practice.
Okay.
You know, in acting, this is scripted. You know, this scene I'm going to do tonight in my class. I'm going to memorize this, but then I'm going to kind of let it go and see where it goes, depending on, I'm going to be listening to my scene partner. And depending on how they present a line to fight for their need as they perceive it, I'll take that like catching a ball, and then I'll throw it back, fighting for using the words in the script. I'll throw that ball back, fighting for what I feel my needs are.
Yeah.
You know, and it's sort of this give and take. So it's really being present and seeing who is here, where we are, and what is happening in this moment, here and now. And just being open to having that affect sometimes profoundly, sometimes subtly, the energy, the demeanor, and the unfolding of the script as it is. my beloved mentor and teacher and guru, Eugene Berger, he was the first to encourage me to script my magic.
Right.
He demanded it, and it transformed. I was doing restaurants, and I couldn't believe just the act of writing down how I was doing it at the time. Not trying to add anything, just writing down gave me such an ability to be more present and listening. So he would say, the script is there for when the show doesn't happen. And I was like, I'll never forget that, because what the show is the audience having a conversation and a dialogue with people in real time in the moment, right? So the script is there for when the show doesn't happen. And sort of with that in mind, folded into this, I love this feedback that it felt like a conversation, because that's truly a conscious goal. Tom Morez, 5 points, and in it there's this really stick figure drawing of him drawing lines from his eyes to every audience. He has this theory of threads, and you connect by eye contact. I connect a thread to you.
Sure.
Right? We have a thread connected. And when I look away, that thread is cut. But the line kind of floats there and diminishes. It falls slowly. So I can look over here and I retie the thread with this person through eye contact. And then I come back to you at some point, and that reties the thread. So there's a constant checking in, as the host, as the star, as the presenter, with everyone that's present. Even if I can't see them, even if the lights are too bright, I'm aware of. I always make it a point to go on stage to my mark before an audience is there, and look at where all the people are going to be.
Right.
So I know where those eyeballs are going to be.
Yeah.
If I can, I'll go out into the audience and I'll sit in seats and I'll look and see what their experience is watching me. So I can, when it's possible.
Sure.
Again, it's a flow. It's not a checklist. And the third element, those tying of the knots, the script is there for when the show doesn't happen. And then, another lesson from Eugene was E = MC squared. Sorry, that wasn't his lesson. His lesson was every moment counts. Eugene always said every moment counts, because you are creating the show. Like every moment, how you pick up an object. And that said, even if a siren goes by outside and it's not intended, every moment counts. So either if it's just with a look, you don't have to say, "Oh, they're coming to get you," the law's on you, but just to let it happen. It's there. It's part of everybody's experience, shared experience. And we have to take responsibility for every moment, and so transitions, getting them smooth, knowing where every object is, prop management. It's not fun to watch someone search for a thing unless it's intentional and part of the humor or something, or part of the misdirection. But every moment counts. So with that said, I got my first tattoo ever was of E = MC squared on my wrist, because it was a performance mnemonic. I wanted to remember that on stage. And the squared part, and this is a long-winded way to get to this, the squared part is a number 2, right? And that is to remind me that no matter how big the audience, for everyone watching, it's a conversation between me and them.
Right.
It's just us. It's me and 6,000 people at Radio City Music Hall. But for someone sitting in the balcony at Radio City Music Hall, it's them and the guy standing alone on stage.
Yeah.
Right?
Cool.
So,
AGT, you smashed it, I think we could safely say. What was the experience like for you?
it was stressful. It was stressful because first and foremost, we have an ego and we have a brand, and I'm a working professional at the time when I did it. I had a career. And I'm not the producer.
Right.
On Carbonaro Effect, I get to be watching the monitor.
Uh-huh.
I can make sure my angles. Oh, we need to do another take because we flashed.
Uh-huh.
I can look out for Michael
Yeah.
and know that the end game is going to be how we intend it.
Sure.
And I've seen many performers go on that show who I know are talented and very good. And they've been edited. Music's been added. Script has been taken out of context.
Right.
To paint a different brand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that made me really nervous.
Yeah, for sure.
Because at that first audition, and they were really encouraging me to do a trick called Ace in the Hole, which I only do by request nowadays because I'm not as fit as I should be to pull a card out of my butt cheeks. But I love this trick, and they wanted this. This was the closer at my club date.
Yeah.
You know, this is not a corporate routine. This is sort of like, you know, if you're coming to see my concert at the time, that's how I would close the show, with this really bombastic, over the top, sort of poking fun at our modern culture obsession with celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted me to do this as my first audition.
Oh.
You know, and I was like, I don't think so. You know, like,
Yeah.
that's something I build trust, and then I'm able to, you know,
Sure.
go off the handle.
So you could see them editing you to look like an idiot and pulling a card out your butt.
You think? Yeah. But they were really adamant, and here's what folded into the decision. I was very resistant to do America's Got Talent I did season 10. It had been around for a decade, and I'd been invited to audition for the first season.
Right.
So, you know, it had been on the radar, but I was just like, I'm not interested in a contest. Who has the right to judge what I do, right? But that earlier that year, I mean, literally, like, it's so funny when something's on your radar, how it can kind of pop up right on the horizon. Charlene and I were talking, well, now we have kids, and things are going well, but how do we move the needle? How do we up the game? How do we get better clients? And TV was the immediate and obvious answer, you know, more. And in my mind, that meant, like, you know, late night appearances, or, you know, just presence on TV. And like within a week, both casting from Fool Us and AGT kind of popped up in my email. Like, okay, that's weird, but awesome.
Sure.
And I threw my name in the hat for both. Why not? Let's see what happens, because we were just talking about it. So I'm not gonna resist this this sort of answer to my call. Mm-hmm. And it was Matt Franco's fault that AGT reached out, because I was writing for him on his NBC special, and we would get together every morning in Burbank for weeks to, you know, getting cards on the wall for what he was going to do. And he was like, "You should do America's Got Talent." And I was like, "Not in a million years, no way, man." And he sent the link to producers, and they reached out. So, hate you, love you, Matt. Hate you, love you. More love though, 100%, because I don't regret it. He in that moment, he knew what it had done for him.
Right.
And I think as a friend, he was like, I think he would like that. He wanted that for me, you know? So very cool. And so I said, yeah, to Ace in the Hole. And I did that. And so that goes in the can, and you don't know how it's going to end up. And then you tape a second round. You tape the judge cuts pre-taped. And again, you don't know how that is going to unfold. And then if you make it through that, then you're in the live rounds, right, and you have a little bit more control of what's being seen. So I was nervous about that. And I'll tell you, when my first episode aired, we were in production on Carbonaro Effect. So Michael and the team, Darren Berger, Matt Schick, Chad Sanborn, we were all on a couch watching this first episode of America's Got Talent. And two things. My editing concerns were confirmed. And I'll share that in a quick second. But it was beautiful, because it opened with, I happened to be FaceTiming with my boys before I went on stage, and they happened to not be a-holes. Right. You know, like kids, you never know. Sure. But they were awesome, and they were adorable, and they did cute things. And to have a a toddler saying, "Good luck, Daddy," like,
Sure.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
and I saw that they had painted me as a hero,
Right.
and I was like, oh man, I might go far,
Yeah.
right? Because they're spending time on the package, right? So that was exciting. Here, what was interesting, I have a joke at the top of my show where I say, I have kids. Our youngest just took his first step. He admitted he is powerless over drugs and alcohol. And I love this joke. And I did that joke at my first audition. And, Mel B says, "So you have kids?" And I go, "Yeah, our youngest just took his first step. He admitted he's powerless over drugs and alcohol." And like Howard Stern laughed his ass off. And Mel B was like, "What?" And I'm like, "I just made a joke about chemical dependency at the expense of my children. Those are the words I said." And she was like, "Okay, well, let's see what you got." What I saw on NBC was, "You have kids?" "Yeah, our youngest just took his first step." Cut to an audience going, "Oh," and then cut back to me going, and Mel going, "Let's see what you got." So I was right. They're telling the story.
Yeah.
And we're not in control. And I lucked out that they saw potential, for my arc,
Right.
Yeah. In the judge cuts, when they revealed at the end of the day, they have you come out alone and stand with no audience, and they tell you if you're moving forward or not. They had me come out alone. First, they were going to have me come out with another person and stand side by side. Then that changed, and so now I'm coming out alone, and I'm standing center stage. And Howard Stern says that night, he says, "So I think we can only pass so many through to the live rounds, and I think you're very talented, and we really hope the best for you. But I think you know what we're going to say." And I was exhausted. The days are incredibly long. And I just did this, it's like, yeah. And he goes, "And what we're going to say is, you're going on to New York City." And I popped up and I'm like, "Oh, right. Okay." In hindsight, I realized they didn't know what they wanted to do with me yet. They hadn't seen, they had another day of taping. So they got coverage
Of both.
They got a failure and a success. Because and I squeaked through.
Oh,
and
man.
then went all the way through to the finals. But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're evil geniuses.
Yeah.
It's really
Jeez.
incredible what they do. I'm so impressed by that production. They thousands and thousands of hours of footage to cull it down to these. I mean, they pull your heartstrings. You watch, you get emotional about these people. You hear their stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the material selection for it, particularly the why you chose to do a trick that was published in 1947, Francis Carlisle's homing card. Now, I'm not being dismissive of the trick. I love it. But why did you pick this ancient yet brilliant trick to do on TV?
Sure. So here's that comes from them insisting that I kind of open with my closer.
Right.
So I made a conscious choice to work then sort of backwards through my show. So in the final rounds, I did my opener, which is a rope routine.
Uh-huh.
And that was my final. I just sort of decided I'm going to work backwards then. And the Carlisle routine is I also knew that I'm going center stage, Radio City Music Hall, live television. I want to do something that I know so well that I'm bulletproof.
Right.
So I didn't, for that particular show, I didn't go off the charts with creating brand new material just for America's Got Talent. not that season. I did material that I knew backwards and forwards, so I could truly be present with the cameras and the audiences. Yeah,
no, it makes sense. There's going to be people listening to this that want to know how you take something and make it funny. So can you talk a bit about, let's say, the homing card? How do you take that and, air quotes, make it funny? What's the process?
Well, that routine, the humor derives predominantly from being present with the other person.
Right.
Okay. And I think a lot of my humor comes from it's relationship based. And it has come from years of performing a routine, and sometimes something really funny happens, and then I'm able to, using the actor's technique and scripting, fold that in and set the path up for it to happen again and again and again. A prime example is, Matt King having an audience member accidentally sign the opposite side, the wrong side of a card. That happened once in a live show, crushed, and then he found a brilliant way to make that happen again and again and again that tells that same story, to the audience. So great. So, man, that is a really, really hard question. How do you make something funny? I do feel like I'm blessed to be to have an inherent sense of humor.
Sure.
When I was 10, recovering from open heart surgery in the hospital, my mother brought me a small G.I. Joe figure, and I was, had this gore of surgery on my chest, and I could see my mother was very concerned and brave and afraid. And I took the guy and I ran him, and I'm like, hey, look, it's a battlefield. And to get her to laugh, and so that's like I inherently want to diffuse tension, create humor, and so I'm not fully conscious about how I find humor, but I am alert to where humor might exist in a moment.
Right.
And often it is really not. It comes from not comedy with a capital C. It's through tension and release. And in magic, people are nervous about being on stage. So to be present with them, sense their tension, and then find places where you can relieve it without totally embarrassing them.
Yeah.
An example in my homing card routine, I have a person on stage, and this is so lowbrow, but I'm like, it happens when I riffle the cards. When I riffle, that's a distraction. Can you hear that in the back? And I go, oh, and then I fan the cards and I wave. I'm like, someone enjoyed the buffet. So I've made a fart joke at their expense, in this moment of tension, and it's sort of an off the cuff, and the actor's technique to, as if I heard it, right?
Yeah.
And the more subtly I play it, the better the joke, the more humorous it is. Really, if you can find those moments of comedy and then play them, see how subtle you can play it, almost like you're hiding it from the audience. See how low you can go and still get the laugh, and that's probably where a good place for it to live. Because as soon as it's like, whoa, now it's a bit.
Yeah. And they're more likely to get embarrassed as well, I guess. If you minimize that thing that you were talking about, then it's not so much poking fun at their flatulence.
Yeah. And I'll say too, no, I lost it.
Like so many people, you have made the pivot to be doing virtual shows during the crazy space that the world's been in the last sort of 18 months. How long did it take you to realise when the pandemic started that was where you needed to go?
I was not happy about it at all. The idea of performing in this space, it's so harrowing, because you are alone in a room.
Yeah.
I gotta say, man, after a year of doing virtual shows, I have recently seen on Netflix Bo Burnham's special, Inside. I've watched it 3 times. That's all I'm gonna say. What a master, and that's how you do something alone in a room. It's really great, and captures all the emotion of how sad it all is, but exciting too, because at first I was very bummed. I did it pretty quick. I'd say I got rolling. I wasn't a first adapter. I think the first adapters were people I saw saying, my show Tuesday on Facebook Live, I'm doing my show. And I saw a lot of that happening, people immediately offering what they do in a virtual platform, with Patreon or some sort of payment method,
Sure.
and kind of almost like passing the hat. And what I did not want to do is take my live show, and which has a pretty decent price tag, and offer it, in Facebook.
Yeah.
That was not interesting to me at all, and I didn't think that my live show would translate to Facebook.
Sure.
Just and what I because I saw a lot of people just doing what they do on stage, but doing it in a room, and trying to make that work with varying degrees of success. I knew it needed to be material that was specifically curated for this frame, and so like many things I've done in the past, I've done some theater runs where I'll think of the title of a show, and I'll print the postcards and book the venue, and I'll send the promo, and then I'll start working on that show. This is a good catalyst for creative effort. So my amazing mentor and corporate friend, Bill Hers, was constantly reaching out to me saying, where's your promo? Get me a virtual promo. Get me a promo about your virtual show. I was like, I just was so resistant to that, because I didn't want to set up a Zoom and hit record and then edit that with a voiceover and say, here's what here's my Zoom show, and here's footage of me doing my Zoom show. It just seemed abysmal. And then, so I was kind of waiting for an idea on how to frame the experience. And then I got the idea. And once I had the idea, great. I was able to then put it together and shoot it. I think I sent a teaser link to this promo. It might be available on some Vanishing Ink email. But the idea was, I'm in a room and saying, hey, Derek Hughes here. And then I'm being interrupted by a voiceover, which I also recorded myself, but it's Derek Hughes has performed on MTV, VH1, kind of all my accolades. And they're like, okay, what I'm trying to say is, what I'm going to do is we're going to get together and, in wherever you are, whether it's Doha, Qatar, Radio City Music Hall, Manila, okay, yes, I have been to all those places, but when I go there, we have fun, and wherever you are, on your toilet, in your space, okay. And I lose it. I get annoyed with this interruption.
Sure.
So the promo itself is a bit, right? Not just an ask, but it actually is sort of a piece of entertainment in and of itself. And then at the very end, boop, this was the whole idea, is boop, it cuts to my son at a microphone going, and we've dubbed my voice. He's like, now can I have that cookie? So there's a gag, right? So I did that. I made a promo, and then I had to make a show.
Right.
And then, but that was I'd say early summer.
Okay.
So it took me probably 4 months to get on board and actually start putting together some ideas that I felt were worthy of inviting an audience to go on a journey with me through their device.
Yeah. Yeah. We get quite a lot of questions about the tech side of virtual shows here. And I understand you've got quite the setup. Can you tell us a bit about what you've learned in terms of production?
Yeah, I cheat.
Brilliant.
A little bit. I do, honestly. I'm really blown away. I saw the show last week, our friend in San Francisco, and he was talking about how he does everything. And he has multiple cameras, and he's moving from room to room, and there's sound and visual effects, and he uses OBS software, and I'm like, wow. And I did have this thought where he was like, and he's a much younger man than I, so take this with a grain of salt. When he said, I do everything, I was like, that's stupid. My thought is like, why? But I think he's proud of that, and what an achievement to be able to do that all on your own. I have hired a behind the scenes producer,
right,
who I run a handful of video clips during the course of my show. I do toggle. I bring people on stage to be on screen with me. My preferred platform is called StreamYard, which is a really sort of television studio type platform where the screens can be arranged in a different arrangement for interaction. And in StreamYard, you have full control over everybody's mute and sound, so someone coughing doesn't take center stage. Mid-show. And I have done many shows in other platforms. There's clients who are like, no, we're married to Zoom, or we're married to Google Meet, and that's it, hard line, and that's fine. And we work around that. But I do have a behind the scenes guy that I do pay a pretty good percentage of my take. So I'm not thinking about that when I'm thinking about being here.
Sure.
And do I think about, geez, I could use the extra dough. Maybe I should figure out how to do that on my own, because so many people do it, and I think the audiences are very forgiving of someone like you're looking away. You're hosting this, but you also have a screen where you told me you're checking questions and don't feel you're being rude, and I totally. We're becoming so accepting of this, looking for a button and doing a thing, and we're cool with it. So does it fully distract from the show? I don't know. I mean, every moment counts. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I have someone helping me behind the scenes with what's happening here, and in my space, I have a lot of trial and error. It started, it used to be this too. It used to be sort of a shelfie. I had a bookshelf behind me, and it was the first bunch of shows was on a plane. And then there was a trick I wanted to do that required a full body thing. So I turned the whole show, and here's sort of a sample of the corner. Derek Delgadio and Vanessa, we talked a lot about space, and they sort of helped me curate this, magic posters with a curtain, because I have the wood paneling.
Yep.
And, and then finding a way to light that. Right now the lighting's not great, because you can see there's where is it? There's like a reflection of a light there, and a reflection of a light there. This isn't the setup for the show. The setup for the show is up here.
Right.
So that's lighting, a camera with a teleprompter, and a second camera shooting down at that's a table with a close-up mat on it that has a camera pointing down on it. So I do using this Black Magic switcher here, and I have a monitor, and I also have an audio ape plugged in. So Matt doesn't run, my tech guy doesn't run my music cues. He's doing visuals with like the audience and the video clips, and then I'm doing my own sound cues.
Like an animal.
Like an animal. Yes. Who would do that? I do stoop so low. And it's fun. Let me just roll back to that, because I think here's something I've discovered. As a younger artist, I did do it all myself, and that feels good, because as magicians, as we emerge into magic, it's one of the only arts where you're the writer, the producer, the director, the sound guy, the light designer, the set designer, the PR guy, the graphic designer, the video editor. I mean, like, we really, for the most part, often do it all. And working on Carbonaro Effect and becoming a part of a team and discovering the power of delegation and collaboration and trust,
right,
that we can create things so much bigger. The thing, I'm shifting from the discussion just for a moment, because that idea of, what we can do as a team is really unbelievable. And part of working with Carbonaro on his show, I got a little depressed, and because it's like the little old lady who lifts a car off a kid. You hear the story of the 80-year-old, who lifts a car off a kid to save the kid. And everyone's amazed. It's a miracle. Superhuman strength. Unbelievable. And she gets sad. And everyone's like, why are you sad? You saved a life. And she's like, yes, but I can't help but dwell on all the things that I thought I couldn't do. And now I'm 80. Okay. So what we did in Carbonaro Effect is we lifted cars off babies, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like, what if we tried this? There was an earlier incarnation of Derek mind that would say, not possible. But it is. Like, everything we wanted to do, we kind of found a way to pull it off.
Right.
Either by pivoting the angle or changing the perspective, or, just by putting it out there. I had I had the same experience early on working on an MTV show called Room 401. David Minkin was a writer on it with me, and one of the ideas, Ashton Kutcher was the executive producer, and he wanted, at the time there was viral footage of a guy on a aircraft carrier getting sucked through a jet engine.
Okay.
And like, it's sort of this grainy night vision video, and it like was real footage, and it was viral at the time. And he's like, can we do that? And we were like, well, yeah, we could try. And we all these ideas, and we would call airports and get pricing, and it was possible, but it was just too it was just too expensive.
Right.
It was not in the budget. And then, I kid you not, our location designer finds at Burbank Airport a gutted airplane for a company that does custom interiors for private jets. Okay? And this airplane has dummy engines. And suddenly, we're able to do this incredible thing. I mean, so again, a team is very powerful, and we shouldn't limit our imagination to what we think is possible. I mean, come on, we're magicians.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You ready for the segue? Yeah. Talking of virtual shows, Derek, you'll be doing our virtual event, Showtime, in July. Good, eh? What can people expect from your show?
Not as good as a live show.
No, man, you're meant to be selling it.
That is selling it, because my live show is unbelievable.
Touche.
Listen, what you will see, and I'm speaking predominantly towards the magicians, is you'll see one of your brother magicians' efforts in full swing. What I aim to present to the Vanishing Ink audience is the show that I have offered to many satisfied clients over this this bizarre window of time in our history. And I'm very grateful for the show that I'm going to present. You know, I'm grateful for the ideas that came that sort of poke fun at this world. And I'm grateful for some of the effects that cropped up and became a reality that work in this very weird space. I think there's some really strong stuff. I think you might see something that looks familiar, used in a unique, adapted way, and yeah, you again, we might do this question again.
We can do it again. I like it. But if you want to go again, we can go again.
No, I mean, really, that's it. Honestly, it's you're going to see one man's effort to make people smile and create wonder through ones and zeros.
I dig it.
Yeah.
We're not only out of time, we're over time. So I'm glad you're hard out vanished. But we always end the show with 4 quick fire questions. Are you ready? For audio listeners, Derek is limbering up.
Okay.
Favorite pizza topping?
It is a cheese pizza with sausage, pepperoni, broccoli, and garlic.
Oh, broccoli's a curveball. I dig it though. Favorite movie?
Makes it healthy.
Yeah, of course. It's yin and yang, man. It balances the whole thing out.
Justifies the whole pie.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie. Can I say in and of itself?
You can say in and of itself.
That is one of my very favorite movies. And on the theatrical tip, the first thing that popped in my mind was Being John Malkovich. So,
favorite person or people who make music?
I'm going to say that there's a group of people that formed a band when they were kids called Nickel Creek. It was a bluegrass band. And the members are
Chris Thiele.
Sarah Watkins, Sean Watkins, and Chris Thiele. Yeah. And I want to say it's that group of people. And they're currently working on a new album together.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I learned a lot about what it means to be an artist. And I was very inspired. I had the wonderful opportunity to tour with them many times as their opening act. And I would see these people do their music all the time. All the time. Not just on stage, but in the bus, in the green room beforehand, on stage, in the green room after, at the hotel. They just were immersed in what they do, and that's how they live. And I was inspired. I was like, I can be more like that. I could be more immersed, in what I'm endeavoring to present to the world. So the members of Nickel Creek, not necessarily Nickel Creek. I love Nickel Creek, but it's really it's Sarah, Sean, and Chris are 3 of my favorite people that make music.
Love me some Chris. Love his solo. Love his stuff with Brad. Love the Bark stuff. Love the Punch Brothers. Love him. So yeah, we're not only both 50 this year, we both love Chris. So that's beautiful. Final question.
I love that.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Who would you rather fight? 1 massive Andy Gladwin or 100 tiny Joshua Jays?
Listen, Andy, don't take this the wrong way, man. But Josh, when he was a camper at Magic Camp and I was a counselor, he wasn't very intimidating. but the kid's done some curls, and I know that's not from zero shuffling. Those biceps, he's got to put some effort in. So I'm gonna go. I think Andy and I are a more even match.
Fair enough. Derek Hughes, I look forward to the start of July to seeing your Showtime show, and I thank you for giving me so much of your time this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure was mine, 100%. Thank you.